Matt Hardy. Thank you for watching the Gimme a Whole Year Wrestling Podcast.
Hello, and a very warm welcome to the Gimme a Whole Year Wrestling Podcast. My name is Ant, and today I'd like to take you through my top 5 picks for my favourite wrestling cinematic matches. In this day and age, we're getting quite a lot of them. WWE have done a lot, AEW have just done one at their recent event, and in this day and age, we come out of this wrestling pay-per-views talking about these matches. So I thought it'd be interesting to go back, have a look at a couple of them, including the recent ones, and say which ones are my favourite. So I've wrote them in a list of 5. This is just my opinion, but it would be awesome to hear your opinion, so write it down in the comments below. If you enjoy this content, please like the video, it really helps us out, and subscribe to the channel for more wrestling content. Right, let's just get straight into it. What is a cinematic match? Well, it could be anything. It could be the Rock and Mankind in the Empty Arena Brawl. Could describe that as a cinematic match. You could say that the Goldust and Roddy Piper one at the Hollywood Brawl, that was a cinematic match because it started off as a cinematic match. Does it have to be in the ring? I don't know. There's no definite answer on what makes a cinematic match. So it'd be interesting to hear what you think makes a cinematic match. I think one of the biggest inclusions for me is sort of music and that sort of overly produced wrestling. Let's go straight into some of these, which are really great. And if you haven't seen any of these, it's really worth going back to give them a watch. Let's go into number 5. At number 5, I have Sami Callihan versus Eddie Edwards in an unsanctioned fight in the woods. Now, this is probably the most realistic in terms of an actual fight that we see in this list. It's a proper brawl in the woods. Eddie goes into the woods to find Callihan. He has to fight several of his friends, choking one out with a massive branch, the other one slamming the body into a boot of a car. And we see Eddie, who's really sort of getting into that manic mindset that he needs to be able to fight Callihan, and that's really interesting. I think the one of the most interesting things as part of this match is how Eddie changes as he goes through the match and ends up as the vicious one as opposed to Callihan, because it's a ruthless world. This is Callahan's world, and it brings out the worst in Eddie, if you like. When we get into the brawl between Sami and Eddie, they're fighting off in the dust. It's a dusty road. You can't see very much going on, but they're throwing fists at each other. Then it starts getting into that nasty wrestling where they're raking at each other's eyes all the time. And then they get up against a tree and they're really throwing each other into this tree, trying to use weapons, which are fighting each other off like a sword fight at times. It's really exciting. Then as Sami goes to attack him with a tree trunk, a tree branch, if you like, Eddie ends up getting it, splitting the top of Callahan's head all open. Looks great, a great visual, and really sort of a brawly fight. At the end, Eddie seems to have lost his whole character and becomes as violent as Sami, and I think that's really interesting. Pushing away Tommy Dreamer with a bat and his partner who come down to try and help him. Eddie's turned into the maniac at the end of the match, and I think that's great as it goes on. A really nicely produced brawl. For those of you that haven't seen it, this is actually filmed quite similarly to the Undertaker AJ brawl, maybe with less lights at times, but it's a really interesting fight to watch, so go and check it out if you haven't already. Next up, we have, at number 4, that is, we have Rosemary Travels to the Undead Realm, another Impact one here, and it's not the only ones on this list. A match which sees Rosemary go down into the Undead Realm to confront Su Yung. We see her first go down fighting off against Luchasaurus, who we all know now from AEW. She can't get the better of him. She ends up with a green mist in his face. This is great. A green mist. And she picks up a wrench, a big red heavy wrench with a silver top, classic. Whacks Luchasaurus across the face. He falls. Green blood splatters all over the camera. It's hilarious and goofy at the same time. She goes up against two other wrestlers next and decides to use her meat cleaver, slicing at the jugular of one of the wrestlers, which is great. And then as the brides of Su Yung come and surround her in the ring, Kiera Hogan throws in a sword and she's able to beat all them back off. It's good, goofy, silly stuff that we can only do in a cinematic form, and I think that's great. There is a reason why I really enjoy this match, but I'll go into that in a bit. It ends up being Rosemary with Kiera Hogan against Su Yung and Ali. But after Ali is unable to plunge that dagger into Rosemary, as she maybe should have done, we also get Kevin Sullivan making an appearance as the Taskmaster. At the climax, Su Yung is going to attack Rosemary with her Freddy Krueger finger claws thing. She goes to attack Rosemary, but Ali pushes her out of the way and takes it for her, sacrificing herself. And we see Ali's character die and become a vapor and disappear. And I find that a really interesting way of telling a story and getting rid of a character. Ali was going to AEW. They needed to write her off TV. So they used this cinematic match as a way of doing that. And actually, I think that really got people talking more than just a match where she loses and disappears. I think it was interesting, and it told a story over a long time, and I think this conclusion was a really good sort of end of that story, and then moved it onto the direction of Rosemary losing Ali and willing to sacrifice herself. Really interesting. One of the things that I really love about this match is the soundtrack. It's absolutely brilliant. You've got Born to Haunt You, Catch You When I Die by Benjamin Cox, I'm the Ghost by Terrifying Tara and Andy Poltergeist, and I Can Feel You by Craig McConnell. It all really creates this cinematic, eerie, spooky setting that we're supposed to be in. And I think that that's really, really well done, and probably the best use of music, apart from maybe one other that's really good as well. It's haunting, and it provides a haunting soundtrack to this great conclusion to a story. Some people don't like it. Some people say killing off a character is stupid. I enjoyed it. So, yeah, that's my number 4. Let's go into number 3. And number 3, I'm going to put the most recent match of this list on the table here. I'm going to say the Stadium Stampede. Adam Hangman Page chasing down Sammy Guevara on a horse. Matt Hardy, multiple gimmick changes in a 3-foot pole with Santa Ortiz, who were eventually neutralized by a giant bell and an ice box. A bar brawl between Hager and Page, which has the old Western classic, dragging him across the bar scene. Multiple bottles over the head of Hager. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this match, some great wrestling. Adam Page is there doing backflips off the pool table in sequences which look great and really highlight the guy's talents, as well as the sort of fun that they can have in a match. This was so much fun. Matt Jackson flipping off a goalpost onto Jericho and Sammy Guevara, great. Followed by a 100-yard suplex chain. Jericho asking for the video replay, which was hilarious, from Aubrey Edwards, because he was contending the 2 count, obviously. And then his witching antics with his traffic cone on his head. I'm not sure if he's ever going to get that over, but maybe he will. To the recall of Matt Hardy and Kenny Omega in the golf cart, chasing Sammy Guevara down, the referee trying to keep up with him but unable to. Sammy Guevara one-winged angels into the player area. This was fun. This was one of them matches that was just pure fun, and it hit a lot of the comic beats as well as having some great wrestling in it, and that's what I really appreciate about this match. There was the silliness of the cheerleaders being out there, the great entrance with all the American football pyro and stuff like that. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. Some of it might not have hit for people. People might not like Matt Hardy's gimmick changes throughout a match. But then some people like me just laugh at it when Santana and Ortiz are acknowledging the graphics that are coming up. Brilliant. I really enjoyed it. It was madness. It was truly funny at times. And I was looking at this and the Money in the Bank ladder match, because both are quite similar matches. This, for me, way outdid it because of the comic timing of stuff. There was a lot of comic stuff in that Money in the Bank ladder match, which was built up, but then didn't actually pay off to anything. And this felt like it did. When it was Sammy Guevara running away from Hoist, and we see Adam Page nonchalantly looking for him in the back. It all sort of paid off really well for me, and that's why I've put this in the list. It'd be great to hear what you think, but I thought it was truly entertaining TV with some of the most talented performers in the world showing us a good time. At number 2, I'm going to go for the Undertaker and AJ Styles match in a boneyard. This was great. It was a great way of revitalizing The Undertaker, who's become sort of this wrestler who we don't know what level of performance in ring he's still going to give us. So do it as a cinematic match, and you actually get something that's been his best work in years, in my opinion. It was really fun. We had sort of the goofiness with the teleportation and pyro on the top with that awesome Undertaker lettering. And the storytelling in this match was great. Undertaker had taken the dead man gimmick, buried it, figuratively, and come back as the biker taker, a brawling taker, a taker that's not afraid of using his fists. And whether they had 50 cuts in this match, whether they had breaks, the action kept going. And that's what made it really good. We wasn't just watching two gassed out performers, we were watching two guys having a fight. And then we get Anderson and Gallows and the Druids and the choke slam off the top of the building that they'd managed to work their way up for no other reason but to create this spectacle. You see AJ Undertaker being put into the grave before Undertaker teleports behind him with that light from the back of him, looking like a demon. It looked great, and you can only do that type of stuff in these cinematic matches, and it becomes iconic. And then, the reason I mentioned this match for the soundtrack as well, I mean, you've got Metallica. You've got Undertaker coming down to Metallica. But throughout the whole match, the production of this was outstanding. It was clean. It was really well done. And that's why it's on my list. And massive credit to AJ, who I thought sold this match incredibly well. And is continuing to do so. We're still seeing elements of the match haunting AJ, which is great. And I can't wait to see more. Who else would you like to see Undertaker face next? I always said Sting would be amazing in one of these cinematic matches. I think Sting's been released from the company and I can't see him going back at the minute, but we could have finally got Undertaker versus Sting in a cinematic match. That would have been the perfect way to do it, but it'd be great to hear who you'd like to see Undertaker face next in one of these types of matches, because no doubt we're going to get some more, and no doubt they will be great. So, we've made it to number 1. But before we go into number 1, let's have a go through some honourable mentions. And one of them honourable mentions might be one of the ones you expect to be number 1. So Tag Team Apocalypto, Mental Tag Team Fest as part of Impact. 1 hour long, loads of tag teams. Matt and Jeff at Decay, obviously, doing great stuff. Obviously, the Delete or Decay feud as well, with Matt Hardy sucking up Rosemary's green mist and then spitting it back in her face. Great stuff. Lucha Underground. I haven't seen enough Lucha Underground. It'd be really great if any of you have seen Lucha Underground and you could point out some great stuff to watch from it. I'd quite happily go and watch it. I haven't seen enough of it, and that's my own fault. And the other honourable mention is the Firefly Funhouse match, which I ummed and ahed about putting it onto the list. Personally, I didn't really see it as a match, more of an extended promo, and a very good promo at times. Some of the moments in that match, event, whatever it was, are iconic and debated, and some people absolutely love it, and I understand why they'd love it as well. I just see it as more of an extended promo as opposed to the blow-off between the two that I really wanted the match to be. I think if you look at the match and really analyse it and analyse the themes behind the match, you'll find it one of the most thoughtful segments WWE has ever produced. Or you'll find a jumbled mess of nostalgia. And that'll be a divisive thing, and I'm more on the nostalgia side. I just saw it as John Cena putting on a load of clothes. But there's loads more to talk about that. I might do a Bray Wyatt episode in the future, so let us know if you want to see that. It'd be awesome to hear your thoughts on it in general, in terms of the Firefly Funhouse match. And write in the comments below your list of top 5 matches. I really want to see them, guys. So, number 1 of my top 5 cinematic matches is the final deletion. Drones, fireworks, a dilapidated bow. It shouldn't have worked. None of this should have worked. And it absolutely did for me. Revitalizing Hardy's career. We talked about Undertaker revitalizing his career with this Boneyard match. Actually, the Hardys did this a couple of years ago as well. Really, they really sort of become a talking point of the wrestling community. Turning them into one of the hottest tag teams on the independent scene before going back to WWE and getting that wonderful pop, and Matt Hardy being unable to let that character go, and it's still being around even when they joined WWE, even if they weren't allowed to. That's how iconic it become, I think. And the entire crowd, when they come back at WrestleMania, was shouting delete, delete. And it's all started off here. For me, really, this we'll talk a little bit more about that after I've run through the match. But he was a fully developed character, and this was his spotlight to show it to the world, and it's just a crowning achievement in my opinion. Starting off at the first birthday party of his son before the massacre begins, Jeff ends up having to fight off a load of drones. I still have no idea how them drones rang the doorbell, but I don't care. Before a hologram of Matt appears on Vanguard 1 as he invites him to a match. Brother Nero, I knew you'd come. Classic. Before the match begins, and it's not long before Matt introduces Jeff's favourite weapon, a ladder. It's set up in the corner. Matt's draped over it. Jeff climbs up a tree, swantons off it. It looks amazing. We get this great sort of wrestling segment, traditional, with a ring. And, you know, there's the table. Well, it's not a table. It's more like a slatted wooden thing with leaves on it. It's great. Matt then grabs a Roman candle, starts firing this firework at Jeff, as Jeff's only got like a trash can lid to hold everything off. It looks great, and whilst the smoke clears and Matt thinks he's got the better of him, Jeff comes out with his own, and he's firing at Matt as he's running off towards a dilapidated boat that ends up saving Matt. It's madness. And it looks like two guys firing rocket launchers at each other. And it's not. It's just fireworks. We know that. But it's so much fun. And it's chaotic as well, which is what I really like about it. Jeff ends up going into the lake of reincarnation and coming back as Willow, attacking Matt Hardy of Willow before Senor Benjamin gets him off with a taser, because of course he does. Matt Hardy goes to pin Willow on the floor, but he's been swapped out. Jeff Hardy has managed to swap his entire outfit with Senor Benjamin, and the match continues as they go to a huge pillar, which is like a Jeff Hardy, a Hardy Boys sign, effigy, if you like, as Jeff chokes out Matt before climbing this tower. Matt uses the birthday candle from his son's first birthday to light it on fire, sending Jeff off, and Matt gets a pin. It's madness. And it's really polarizing as well, as any of these matches are. Some people are going to like them, some people won't like them. Some people prefer traditional wrestling, some people prefer these. It's really interesting. Where do I stand on that? I don't know. Sometimes I prefer... It's really hard to say. I think I prefer a really good wrestling match, but if you're not going to give me a really good wrestling match, give me a cinematic match. I'll sit back, chew my popcorn, and enjoy myself for 5, 10, 20 minutes. And that's what a lot of these matches do for me. And the match is divisive. A lot of people are saying it was stupid. A lot of people are saying it was the greatest thing to come out of Impact, maybe. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful, and I enjoyed it at the time. I've enjoyed going back and watch it even more now and sort of comparing it to these more modern takes that we've got on it. Obviously, the WWE tried to do it themselves with the Ultimate Deletion. And this isn't the first step into cinematic matches that the WWE have done. Obviously, we've got the sort of Goldust Roddy Piper match from years gone by that you could argue was a cinematic match. I mean, the first half of it was all filmed. The empty arena brawl between The Rock and Mankind, with The Rock's wonderful acting as you go, no, don't let the thing go back on it. Highest paid actor in the world, dudes. Yeah, this match, it just sort of good memories, good times. I enjoy it. It'd be really awesome to hear your comments down below. If you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more content just like this, but also we do a lot of wrestling interviews as well. Go check all of them out. Until next time, give me a whole yeah.
This is Broken Matt Hardy. Thank you for watching the Gimme a Whole Yeah Wrestling Podcast.